Greetings, this is Paul the Poke from PaulthePoke.com. We are Tisha B Av, or the 9th of Av. Hebrew year, traditional calendar, 5785. We are in the Gregorian year, 2025. Scripture reference, 2 Peter 3, verse 12. As you anticipate and hasten the coming of the day of God, when the heavens will be destroyed by fire, and the elements will melt in the heat. First time water, second time fire. So Tisha B Av, to the Jew, this is a date, the 9th of the Hebrew month of Av. It's the 11th month of the civil calendar, or the 5th month of the religious calendar. And this month is not named in the Bible. Av usually occurs during July or August on our Gregorian calendar. So this year, the 9th of Av, begins at sunset on Saturday, August 2nd, 2025, on our Western Gregorian calendar. So those of you who have followed along, we've done this every year, just as a pattern of the calendar, pattern of time, as the Hebrews mark time, attempting to mark time as God intended them to. So that's a whole other discussion. But we get this day, the 9th of Av. It's a day of mourning in Israel, and tragedy came about because of the account of Numbers 13 and 14. This event occurred immediately after God had delivered Israel out of bondage in Egypt. Now, the short story is the Lord told Moses to send a group of spies to go scout the promised land. Spies came back and proclaimed the Jews could not take the land because of the inhabitants of the land were too big and too strong. So they were giants. Then the people rebelled against Moses. People stated they'd rather go back to Egypt, have their leeks and cucumbers. Two exceptions, Caleb and Joshua. They believed God. The nation did not believe God to give them the promised land. And we know it occurred during the grape harvest per Numbers 13:20. We're going to read that below. And this event is said to have occurred on the 9th of Av. God pronounced judgment on the nation of Israel at that time. And this date is said to be a reminder of a nation, Israel's lack of faith in God. So we'll look at Numbers 13:20. And whether the land is rich or poor, or whether there are trees in it or not, be of good courage and bring some of the fruit of the land. Now the time was the season of the first ripe grapes. And that'd be about this time of the year. So we are approaching the 20th anniversary of Israel handing over the Gaza Strip to the Palestinians. And remember the promise of appeasement back in the day. Oh, land for peace. Everything will be wonderful. If we just give these people land, they will get along. There will be peace. And this will fix everything. Well, no, it hasn't. This occurred on the 9th of Av in 5765 or 2005. So again, we're coming up on 20 years since the event occurred. And I remember as soon as they took over, they being the Palestinians, that little section of Israel, they grew more tomatoes in hothouses. It was amazing the amount of tomatoes that little piece of land exported. So what did the members of the Religion of Peace do? Well, they tore it down. That's it. Just tear down a food source. Isn't that ironic that they tore down a major supply of food in all the hothouses and all the vegetables that were grown in the Gaza Strip, and now they claim they're hungry. They don't have any food. Well, there's plenty of space in that little bitty section of the Gaza Strip to produce enough food for everybody, because they were a net exporter out of that little strip of land back in the day, they being Israel. So, and then as irony would have it, they proclaim they're starving. Now that's a discussion for another day. People from Hamas, those running around in the tunnels down there, they seem to have plenty of food. If you look at the actual amount of food that is being dropped into the Gaza Strip, it's enough food for 2 or 3 times what actually lives there. So we got a distribution problem there. Makes you wonder what Hamas and others are doing with the food. Anyway, Ezekiel 38, the Bible says there will come a time when Israel will stand alone and no nation will come to their defense. And this was as of about a week ago. This is per Grok. 148 of the 193 United Nations member states recognize the state of Palestine. So about 75% of the UN members, they recognize Palestine. So Vatican City, the Holy See, they also recognize Palestine. Isn't that interesting? The Catholic Church recognizes Palestine. So this came out. Our favorite little French president, Emmanuel Macron, consistent with its historic commitment to a just and lasting peace in the Middle East, I have decided that France will recognize the state of Palestine. Okay. I will make this solemn announcement before the United Nations General Assembly this coming September. The urgent priority today is to end the war in Gaza and to bring relief to the civilian population. And Macron says peace is possible. We need an immediate ceasefire, the release of all hostages, and massive humanitarian aid for the people of Gaza. We must also ensure the demilitarization of Hamas, secure and rebuild Gaza. And finally, we must build the state of Palestine, guarantee its viability, and ensure that by accepting its demilitarization and fully recognizing Israel, it contributes to the security of all in the region. Now, for what second does anybody think Hamas is going to fully recognize Israel? And what makes anybody think that Hamas is going to demilitarize? I mean, come on, dude. And they've had all this time to hand over these hostages they took. I mean, he is encouraging and rewarding terrorism for what happened on October 7th. That's why we're here. I know. Let's give them a state. I mean, we tried that 20 years ago. We gave them land. That didn't work. Things got worse. You think it's going to get better just because you recognize them as a state or a nation? Anyway, Macron says there is no alternative. The French people want peace in the Middle East. It is our responsibility as French citizens, alongside Israelis, Palestinians, and our European and international partners, to prove that peace is possible. Okay. In light of the commitments made to me by the president of the Palestinian Authority, and you believe him, I've written to him to express my determination to move forward. Trust, clarity, and resolve. We will achieve peace. All right. Here's the here's the letter to Abbas, Mahmoud Abbas, president of the Palestinian Authority. Notice he is talking to the PA and not Hamas. So that is different. But Abbas, he got out of there. He's in the West Bank now. That's where most of his followers are, in the West Bank. Okay. So, I'm not going to read his letter. Come on. And then we got this a few days later. Prime Minister Starmer out of the UK to recognize a Palestinian state in September. So he's right there with Macron. Unless Israel agrees to ceasefire and long-term peace. Now, he's got his own little religion of peace issue in Great Britain and then in the United Kingdom. I mean, they have been they've been overrun with immigration, and we're going to see how well that works for them. But if y'all want to listen to what he has to say, click on this. I don't feel the need to again, but if you want to, there's the link. Free to listen. And then we had this. King Charlie, he quotes the Quran and praises Muslims for their enormous contribution to British society and culture. I didn't think it sounded like a joke. I thought he was deadly serious. I've heard him talk a lot in the past about Islam. I wonder, speculation here on the bald guy's part, I wonder if he's not deep down a member of the religion of peace, if he doesn't support Islam. Because he has no problem putting on scarves and headdresses, and he gets right in there with them. And he knows an awful lot about Ramadan when you listen to this. Just saying. Just saying. I know there's a problem. You have to be like a member of the Church of England in order to be king, or some sort of member of the society over there. You have to be a member of the Church of England. So if he were not a member of the Church of England, then he would forfeit being king. So he's not going to come out and say this. But he spends a lot of time talking about Ramadan, which they're in the month of Ramadan right now. So, and then we had this the last couple of days ago. Just in, 2 days ago, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Egypt call on Hamas to disarm and give up power in Gaza, which is interesting in comparison to what Macron of France had to say. He sent his letter to the Palestinian Authority in Mahmoud Abbas. So it looks like we got some groups, the kings of the South here, turning their back on Hamas. And Macron has turned his back on Hamas, and they are now looking to the Palestinian Authority. Oh, it's got to work. We get rid of Hamas. They were terrorists. We'll turn to the Palestinian Authority. Now it'll work. By the way, 20 years ago, who was the ruling class in the Gaza Strip when they handed that over? It was the Palestinian Authority. We've learned nothing. They keep doing the same thing. And then, we had this great idea. I think it was W. Bush. Let's have elections and let the people decide what they want. They voted for Hamas, kicked out the PA. So we got Hamas in there. PA wasn't strong enough to handle Hamas. Here we are, 20 years later. Same two groups. At any rate, it does make you know what the kings of the South, that would be the Saudis and the Egyptians. What do they know? Who have they been talking to? But here's just a short list of Jewish history on the 9th of Av. Both temples were destroyed on the 9th of Av. 586 BC, 70 AD. Batar fell, the last fortress to hold out against the Romans during the Bar Kokhba revolt. 136 AD, temple area was plowed. 1290 AD, Jews were expelled from England. Makes you wonder how long before they want to do that again in England. They got the king on board, I'm sure. Prime Minister, he wouldn't be too much. He's ready to proclaim a Palestinian state. Had the Spanish Inquisition. 1492, King Ferdinand of Spain issued an expulsion decree. Tisha B Av was the final date. 1914, World War I began. Downward slide toward the Holocaust. And in 2005, Israel turns over the Gaza Strip. So, anyway, it's coming up this weekend. I think Saturday night, sunset, when all this starts. And to me, it kind of kicks off the fall feasts. We're going to have Teshuvah coming up. And with Teshuvah, we're going to count down 30 days to trumpets, 40 days to the Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur. Then we have the Feast of Tabernacles, Sukkot. And big ticket events happen during the feast days, geopolitically, especially here lately in the fall. So we've already got plenty going on, so I suspect something big will come. So I appreciate you guys following along. Please do feel free to share with others. Is greatly appreciated, much appreciated. Thank you to all of those who read, comment, follow, comment, share, comment. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy it. Wishing you all the best. Take care. Bye.